It was a lackluster performance by the Detroit Lions in Minnesota today as they fell to the Vikings 20-7. Hello and welcome to Lions Postgame Live presented by Sling TV. I'm Tori Petry alongside Jennifer Hammond from Fox 2. Jen, it's tough to find positives from this game. What went wrong for the Lions in Minnesota?
Yeah, there were very few positives in this today, and it's interesting because here it is week 14, and no one would tell you this was the team they expected to see on the field. So we need to start with that. But at the same time, a lot of the starters are out there. Offensively, they've got all their receivers in check. Their offensive line is pretty much the starting unit. It was a really tough day for Rick Wagner. 5 sacks given up today. And this thing really, Tori, in my mind, was decided in the first half, even the first quarter. It was the first time that the Lions went scoreless in the first half this entire season. So they never led, and we know that leading hasn't really led to much success for them, but at least it's given them confidence. It's given them something to build on. And at the same time, it seems like it's almost the flipped script, whereas usually it's the offense that's scoring points and doing its job and keeping the chains moving. The defense has usually been the weak link. Today, I thought the defense played relatively well, almost well enough to win. When you hold a team like the Vikings, when Kirk Cousins comes into this game as the top passer rating in the league, and they held him to just 20 points on his home field, I'd say that that's a small victory and a little bit of a consolation, especially with the way guys were injured, the way that players went in and out on that defense. I mean, give him credit. Slay went down, he came back. Davis went down, he came back. Ashawn went down, he came back. By the end, though, you saw Marvin Jones limp off. Also, Bo Scarborough left. It was a tough day for the Lions offense and for David Blau. And certainly what we saw from him last week against Chicago, they were not able to build on it. It's a tough defensive front that the Vikings have, but the Lions didn't do much to protect him at all.
Certainly not. And it feels like the Minnesota Vikings, they're always able to get after the quarterback. I mean, you look at Matthew Stafford when he's played against this Vikings team, he has taken his most sacked games against the Vikings, and it's just been rough, and we saw that again today with David Blau under center. A rookie quarterback, so it's tough to ask him to know how to evade pressure and to navigate that, but the Vikings certainly got after him. I mean, Danielle Hunter had 3 third-down sacks just in the first half there, and it was just, they were after Blau all day.
Yeah, I think that the game plan, maybe in hindsight, there were some things that they may have been able to do, but like you mentioned, with Danielle Hunter in his face all day, they ran the ball fairly well at times, 3.4 per carry in the first half, so they were getting some production with the run game, but it was just so hard to find a complementary passing game today. 1.3 yards per passing play in the first half. They went 7 for 16 on third down, and I think the Vikings actually helped them quite a bit in the first half.
Sure, lots of penalties.
A lot of penalties, especially on third down, and they weren't able to capitalize on those and get into the end zone until the very final moments of this game. So it was really a tough day for that offense. Again, a very good defense, a very young quarterback, but those things are the recipe for a loss here today.
There were some plays where the penalty yardage was almost as much as the Lions' largest yardage gain on offense. I believe their largest in the first half was 18 yards.
I think at one point in the game, the Vikings had as many sacks as the Lions had first downs rushing. So it really was a very lopsided game.
It definitely was. A lackluster performance from the offense today. Just really couldn't get anything going. You felt like maybe their best chance to score was when they got into the red zone there in the first half, and then they take a sack on third down and end up kicking the field goal.
And that was a bad sack because, like you said, the field goal was a miss. It was 40-something as opposed to 32, and that really made the difference. If that would have just been a 32-yard field goal, Prater makes that no problem, and he's reliable enough, and he's going to be the first one to tell you he should have had that. But you can't rely on field goals with this team. You can't rely on the field goals in the NFL, and I know a lot of people want to say, well, they've had so many injuries, and I'm sure that the staff will say, you know what, we're working with what we've got, but look at a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have done really well with a third-string quarterback. They're in playoff position. I mean, when you've got enough depth on a team, and that's one thing I think that Quinn and Patricia were talking about, is building the depth of this roster, next man up mentality. You've got to get better results. You've got to demand better results. And at 3-8-1, and here we are going into week 15, there's nothing much to look forward to right now in Detroit. And I think fans have been very patient. Even Chris Spielman was saying on the broadcast, kind of preaching patience and seeing what the Niners did out with John Lynch in San Francisco the first 2 seasons. Things didn't go well. Now look at them this year. If the Lions are able to follow that kind of blueprint, that would be great. That would be amazing success, and I'm sure that that's what Patricia and Quinn are building towards, getting all of their own guys in here and trying to get a team turned around. I mean, it is somewhat of a rebuild, and they've got the coaching philosophy that they're trying to implement, but you've really got to get it done next year, because the fans in Detroit, I think, are very impatient, and who knows how long ownership will remain patient.
Well, I mean, speaking of the 49ers, the Vikings have that game up on the video boards right now. It's quite the juxtaposition. The Lions already being out of the playoffs entirely. This stadium still has a lot of fans left in here as they watch the video boards for the 49ers Saints game to look at their own playoff implications. Obviously, there's still a lot on the line for the Vikings. The Lions, that is not the case. They have 3 games left to play. They will go home to face the Bucs next week and then on the road for one more road game against the Broncos, finishing out against the Packers, who are kind of the cream of the NFC North division this year. And, it just really has been disappointing. You look back at the beginning of the season, there were some predictions that the Lions were only going to win a couple of games this year. And a lot of us in the local area really felt like that wasn't going to be the case with all the talent that this team had on the roster. And they certainly have not lived up to anyone's expectations in terms of how many games they'd win.
And that, I echo those sentiments tenfold on defense, because that is where this team was built to be very good and to be able to sustain itself and win games, and they just haven't been able to do it for whatever reason.
Yeah, and it's been tough when you have a quarterback in there, a rookie quarterback, David Blau. He had an amazing performance last week on Thanksgiving, but of course this week things were a little bit tougher to come by. Instead of a 75-yard touchdown pass in his first drive, he had 2 batted passes and a sack in his first drive, which was a 3-and-out. It was a really tough day for the rookie, and you got to expect some of that, when you have a rookie quarterback stepping in there. It is a learning process, but, you've got to have other members of the team step up.
Game, there are other ways to pick it up. I mean, we've seen Scarborough and McKissick, between the 2 of them, run really well. They've had some good games rushing, 100-yard games over the last few weeks. And today, I mean, they had only the whole team. The Lions offense had 70 yards in the first half total, finished with, I think, something like maybe 157 or 200. I mean, not very many yards. So they weren't even moving the ball. It's not that they weren't even scoring. They weren't even moving the ball.
Well, at least they were able to avoid the shutout. They got a touchdown there in the final minutes of the fourth quarter. Touchdown pass to Kenny Golladay on a 4th down attempt. They went ahead and went for it on 4th down. Got that touchdown to Kenny Golladay, so they avoid the shutout here. Any other positives that you can take away from this game, Jen?
Well, I do think avoiding the shutout is something big, because the last time the Lions were shut out was 2009. So it has been a very long time, and that would have been, I think, a big stain on this coaching staff and perhaps the players. It probably would have felt a lot worse than it did in the end. They had a chance, he threw that late interception on the final drive, but it's, you've got to start looking to the draft. You've got to start looking to the offseason. I suspect this is going to be a very different looking team next year.
Well, a very disappointing day for the Lions. Feels even more disappointing as the Vikings fans are quite excited here watching this 49ers Saints game. A little bit of a dose of reality for the Lions and where their season has ended up compared to the other teams in the NFC North. One positive from today's game, though, was it was the Lions' My Cause, My Cleats game. So we got to see a lot of guys out there with some awesome cleats dedicated to causes that are close to their hearts.
Yeah.
One of my favorites was Matthew Stafford wearing acoustic neuroma cleats for his wife, Kelly.
That was so cool. And I also want to give a shout out to Will Harris wearing the downtown boxing gym in Detroit, because that's a cause he just came to town as a rookie and jumped on board with.
And that's one close to your heart as well.
It is, absolutely.
Well, let's take a look at a video that tells us about all of the different causes the Lions chose to support. Take a look.
What's up, guys? Devon Kennard, linebacker for the Detroit Lions.
I'm Jamal Agnew.
Matthew Stafford.
Frank Ragnow. My name is Kenny Wiggins. I play offensive line.
My name is Tracy Walker.
Hi, I'm Matt Nelson.
My name is David Blau. My cause is the Jimmy V Foundation, but specifically the Tyler Trent Endowment within the V Foundation. And I chose this because of the incredible impact that Tyler's life had on so many people. I hope my play and my actions reflect the incredible young man that he is.
For My Cause, My Cleats, I chose Midnight Golf Program, which is an after-school program here in Detroit. I did them for a second year in a row because the work they're doing for kids who are seniors going into college and their prep for the next phase of their life is really incredible.
My cause that I chose for My Cause, My Cleats is Operation Smile. My wife and I recently found out that our kid is going to be born with a cleft lip. What Operation Smile does is they go around the world to lower to middle class countries, and they provide operations on people that can't really afford them or don't have the resources for them.
And I chose the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I did it in honor of my good buddy who we lost to suicide this past spring. With my cleats, I just did just things he liked. He liked to shoot pool. He liked Mountain Dew. A muskie, he liked to muskie fish.
My cause, my cleats is for breast cancer awareness. I have an aunt, her name's Aretha Salins, and she's battling with breast cancer right now.
I chose I Know Jack Foundation. It's a local kid who, at the age of 5, was diagnosed with a super rare form of brain cancer that no one had ever survived from, and he beat all the odds. His family started this organization to give back to the families and the kids.
For my cause, I chose Detroit Lions Academy. It's a school out in Detroit. I actually did something really cool, and I had them design them themselves, just to be able to hang out with them, you know, be kind of a mentor. That was super cool.
This year, the cleats that I made were for the Acoustic Neuroma Association, Team A&A. Obviously, Kelly, my wife, had a procedure done to remove one of these in the off season, and it's an honor to have them done and be able to not only honor her, but all the other people that are going through the same, you know, situation around the country.
Love that so much. So many good cleats out there on the field today. Matt Patricia even got in on the action wearing cleats, not cleats, but shoes to support a cause very close to his heart, supporting the military. He's at the podium now. Here's what he had to say about his team's loss to the Vikings.
Good. All right. Well, you know, obviously disappointed with the outcome. You know, tough game, tough place. Give Minnesota credit. That's a really good team. They played hard. They controlled the game. You know, we just think you control the game. But, you know, the first half gave up some big plays that kind of swung some things for us there and didn't make enough plays on offense to help us. And, you know, so there's a lot of adjustments, a lot of corrections here at halftime that we needed to make. I do think the guys went out and played hard in the second half. I thought we tried to get some of those things fixed. We also knew it was going to be a, you know, a tough game. We tried to, you know, decrease the penalties, but we still had some of those in some critical situations. But, you know, again, for us, it's, you know, it's hard. You know, we want to win, trying to do all the things we can to win. But right now, I think the one thing for us is that we just keep pushing together, we keep sticking together, and keep trying to get better. And we all understand that. We know that's where we're at right now in the season. We got a limited amount of opportunities left, and we're just trying to go out and make the most of those opportunities every single chance we can. But give Minnesota credit. They played well. They got great players over there, and, you know, they all played us today. Yeah, well, you know, we talk about that all the time right before the half, and certainly, you know, it's not really at all what we want to go on with that, you know, so not good enough in those situations. We talked about their players and, you know, those guys that can make those plays, and we got to come up with some plays in those situations and play a little bit more aware from that standpoint, but certainly I thought that was something that, you know, wasn't very good before the half came in. We talked about it at halftime, how much we were all, you know, disappointed by that, and we got to make sure that doesn't happen here in the second half. I mean, we'll go back and take a look at it. You know, I mean, there were certainly some things out there that I just thought there was some miscues, some things out there with not everybody on the same page. Communication, it's a loud building. You know, it's a you know, hostile environment to play in, which is obviously good for them and good for them on defense. I think they did obviously some different things to kind of give us a different look, a little bit aggressive with some of the stuff that they did, which obviously worked really well for them with our situation, and you know, they just capitalized on it.
At this stage, 6-9-1, 6 straight losses. I'm not asking this to be antagonistic. I'm just asking you for your opinion. How do you convince people you can get this turned around with this regime and you guys now for 2 years, 9, 19, 1? How do you convince people you can get this turned around?
I mean, again, for me right now, we know we're in the middle of a process. We know we're trying to get better. So, I mean, I think if you look at our team right now and where we're at, we're not winning. We understand that. That's pretty much the obvious. But for us, it's about trying to improve and get better. I think we have a tough team. I think we have a team that works hard. We understand we're going to have to build on top of that in order to kind of get us, over the hump on some of those things that we're not doing well enough. And we're in tight ball games, and we're right there, all the way through. And I think the hard thing for us, and what I appreciate about this team is we don't look at our record and say this is what we are. I think we look at our record and say that's not what we are, and we got to do better and try to figure out how to get the record to match up with what we are. And that's kind of where we're struggling right now. I think that's the best part.
You understand the scrutiny about your job because it's a bottom line business, the record.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in the NFL. I've been in the NFL a long time. I know what the NFL is about. So I do understand that, but I also understand what we're trying to do. I know there's been a lot of coaches that have taken over programs and really tried to start and build something and work from the bottom and try to grow on it and build it. And I know what those records look like too when those guys have all started out. So for me, I try not to look at that stuff. I just try to look at each week. So right now for us, it's about next week, and that's the biggest thing for us. Yeah. No, I mean, I think you never really know what you're getting into from that standpoint. So there's from that, I can't really tell you schedule standpoint, but it certainly is, one of those things where we are grinding through it and we're trying to, make it better every week. And, that's really all we can do. Sorry, yeah, I'll come back, Dave. Certainly want to go back and look at all this stuff, but I think let's give Minnesota credit. I think they did some really good things there to kind of, put us in some difficult situations offensively. I would say just together, I think that group, I think there was some decisions out there. We got to just do a better job at executing, some of those situations. And, David he's an extremely competitive guy. He's a tough guy. I love his energy, what he brings every single day to practice, to the games. He's competitive. So, from that standpoint, he's trying to get it all right. And, for me, again, offensively, defensively, special teams wise, it's a team game. It's all 11 guys on the field at that time. All 11 guys got to be working together, with the coaches to make sure we have a chance to be successful. So it's not going to be one guy from that standpoint. It's got to be everybody. Go ahead, Dave. Sure. I mean, I'm not really going to digest the entire season right now, but I would say for us, it's the stuff we've been talking about. It's the toughness of what I think this team is about. It's the work ethic of what this team is about, the competitiveness of what this team is about. We're extremely competitive group. We got to obviously perform on Sundays a little bit better than what we're doing, but I think those guys are trying to do everything they can to get better and work hard. So I think they're laying that foundation, understanding that you have to have a foundation before you can build anything on top of it, and that's where we're starting. And from there, we'll try to build some pieces that'll help us kind of maybe get over the hump from that aspect of it. But we certainly got a lot of guys out there that are playing really hard. We got a lot of new guys out there every single week, it seems like, and those guys are, just stepping up and diving right into their role and trying to do the best they can with it. And I think that's great to see. I think that's important in the NFL because it is a league where, the lineups change every single week. And when a guy you can have depth like that where they can step in and play, certainly we're gaining some experience that we need with some of those younger players so that as we push forward, those guys will be able to step into those roles and perform at a high level with experience on top of it.
Matt, of the losses, this is the first one you feel like there's one or two plays. Yeah. What's the message going forward to the team to keep it from the season spiraling?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I thought Minnesota did a really good job in the first half of kind of just getting up, and certainly I think there were some things out there that we did that didn't help us from that standpoint. So we've got to learn from those and make sure that doesn't happen again, and that we can be in that sort of continually competitive game that we're used to kind of, every single week. So we kind of put ourselves behind a little bit of a difficult task playing on the road in an environment like this, which is obviously great for their, for their team, but we don't want to do that. It makes it too hard from that aspect of it. Though, again, like I said before, I think our guys came out and they tried to fight really hard to, to go out in the second half and compete and try to get things right, which was good to see.
There's been a lot of injuries this season and last season. Do you think there's a problem that you guys might just be snake bit in that area, or is there something more with the training, strength and conditioning that is making players a little bit more susceptible to injury?
You know what? We kind of evaluate all that stuff when we specifically look at the types of injuries that we're getting to see what are those? Are those soft tissue injuries? Are they things that have to do with the joints? Is it have to do with, playing surface versus different types of surfaces, things like that. So we'll evaluate all those and go forward. We're certainly doing things continually with, the strength conditioning and the training that we do to make sure that we're monitoring all that stuff and keeping track. So we do look at all that. I don't have anything solid for you right now, but we do analyze all that stuff, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, they got a great player over there on their side of the ball, and he's going to go deep. And it was a situation where we gotta, I gotta, get us in a better situation there, so that we don't give that up.
Did the league find you guys for the Stafford injury protocol or whatever? Do you have any response to that?
Yeah, no, we've talked all about that enough. Again, I'm not going to make any comment on that.
I just want to mention how tough this defense is, and just obviously David's first road start.
Yeah.
Just what does this defense do to feed into the challenge?
Sure. Minnesota's defense? Yeah, I mean, obviously, they came right out the gate, a couple different looks, and they brought some pressure, and you saw Smith on the line of scrimmage right away. You saw the linebackers walked up in the A-gaps like they do, and just kind of some of those. They have a lot of packages, a lot of different looks, and they have a lot of flexibility and variability in their defense, and just looked like they were trying to use, they used a lot of it early, gave us kind of some of those different looks and some of those different problems that we had to solve out in the field, and, they executed at a high level very well, especially at home. So I think those are some of the things early on that were troublesome. Okay, great. Appreciate it.
Would you rather sling in or go to a party? For Pepper, the dog, who's ready to party. Perfect. Oh no, rabies outbreak. Better get home right away. Rabies? Oh, slang. My man Leroy, top-notch acting.
Nothing beats the joy of slinging in. You could save hundreds a year versus cable with America's #1 live TV streaming service. Learn more at sling.com.
Well, certainly not the way Patricia envisioned this season playing out, but as he said, his team does not view themselves as their record. They believe they are better than that. Rookie quarterback David Blau just came to the podium to speak with media about this game. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, that makes it tough, I think, on any offense trying to get started fast in a game. It's, something we talk about, and obviously something we didn't do today. And, give Minnesota credit. They made good plays. They batted the ball down those first two plays, and makes it tough when you're backed up against a good defense with a, kind of exotic blitz package that we were seeing. So they did a good job on that first drive, and it was, obviously frustrating to start slow. That's something we harp on, and it can't happen for us. Can't happen for me. You got to find a way to get those to our playmakers, because we had guys where they were supposed to be, and they made good plays. Yeah, I think I can't, put us in the position of taking those sacks. I can't leave those linemen out to dry on some of those, and 5 is 5 too many, and I can't hold the ball too long, take us out of field goal range. Obviously, we talk about the halftime swing a lot, and didn't help our chances with position we could have got points at a crucial time in the game. I think I was prepared. Coaches did a great job preparing me to go out there and have a plan for everything that they were going to do. And, it's probably a little different when you get out there and see it for the first time. But, we had guys in the right spots and guys making the right decisions. It's just we couldn't execute to the best of our capability. Obviously, that's not the standard we hold our offense to. And, we got to be better. Yeah, I think it always adds a level of the communication has to be better. You have to be decisive and make sure everything is sharp and crystal clear, and obviously we weren't. And credit Minnesota. It's a good defense. It's a tough place to play. But it's frustrating. We didn't put our best foot forward on offense. Yeah, I think, I know you guys know what you're going to get out of this team. We're going to fight. It's our coach. We're going to work hard. We're going to go back tomorrow and work hard and try to get better. And I think there were things at the end of the game that we did well. Obviously can't turn the ball over, but things we did well at the end of the game, piecing those drives together, and you learn and you grow and you come back, and the more reps you have, the better you get at it. And so it's frustrating, but we'll go back to work. It's what we do, and be ready to go next week.
Want to stay home and sling, but you don't have a good excuse?
Gonna come by?
I would, but I've got laryngitis. Laryngitis. My cat might die. I would, but I totally don't want to.
Get the #1 live TV streaming service for less at sling.com.
Well, Blau taking responsibility for those 5 sacks he took in this game. One of those guys blocking up front for him, Taylor Decker, shared his thoughts with the media in the locker room, and he talked about what this team needs to do in the final 3 games of the season. Take a look.
It's too little too late at that point. And, at the end of the day, we got three more games with this group of guys, this group of men to go out there and, try to perform your best individually. And then as different units and as a team. So at that point, that's all we can control. And we're just gonna have to take a look at the film, see, was it mental errors, was it technique, whatever it may be.
I don't know, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so maybe you can describe, are you guys angry, frustrated, 6 straight losses now?
Of course, you play to win. You always play to win. But I think, the big thing is just to go back to work and everybody try to control what they control, do their own job, and, rely on the guy next to you to do what he's supposed to do. We're not going to make any excuses. The message may be the same, but that doesn't mean it's not valid. So I don't think it's lost any of its validity in that aspect. There's a lot that we do out there to kind of shoot ourselves in the foot, and that just comes down to us, and that comes down to execution, that comes down to preparation, and that comes down to individual performances.
How do you explain the offensive struggles early? Really throughout the game until you got out of work that way?
I just can't get behind on the sticks. That's kind of what it always is. If an offense isn't doing well, you got to be able to stay ahead of the sticks. So against a defense like that, they have a lot of exotic packages, exotic blitzes, and on top of that, they have a lot of high-level elite players doing it. So you can't afford to get behind early. You got to kind of come out firing, and you got to be able to start fast, start the game fast on both sides of the ball.
So how tough is a defense like that on a young quarterback in particular, with all the different looks that they give you?
Yeah, I think especially being here and playing that defense is super challenging, because not only are you getting exotic looks, exotic blitzes with great players doing it, you can barely hear yourself talk. So there's got to be a lot of nonverbal, there's got to be a lot of trust within the system. So definitely a tough environment to come in and play.
Overall, it seems during a tough time, this team is still just out there fighting. For everything you got, you guys are battling for it.
The one thing that we, maybe you have a missed assignment, maybe you miss a block because your technique's not great, whatever it may be, and those things are going to happen, but we should never question our effort. That's one thing that hasn't happened this year, and I don't think will happen this year. Because at the end of the day, technique flaws are going to happen. Sometimes you're going to get beats, you're going to have misassignments, whatever it may be, miscommunication, but you're expected to play hard.
What is the general feeling in this locker room following that loss, and just that you've lost 6 straight?
It's just frustrating because, like I said, there's a lot of things out there that we can control that hurt us. So we have 3 more chances with this group to try and get it right, and try and do something positive.
Well, that just about does it for us here in Minnesota. Thank you so much for joining us today on Lions Postgame Live, presented by Sling TV. As a thank you from our sponsor, Sling, they are offering you 40% off your first month of Sling TV if you go to sling.com/Lions. Once again, we appreciate you joining us. As always, we'll see you next week. For DetroitLions.com, I'm Tori Petry.
Would you rather sling in or go to a party? For Pepper, the dog. Oh no! Rabies outbreak! Better get home right away. And Sling.
Get the #1 live TV streaming service for less at sling.com.